Next up, it's time for our business report, and for that, my colleague Yuka Royer joins us in the studio. Hello there, Yuka. We're starting out with a really interesting story about millions of tiny fish, and they're worth millions of euros, actually, and French authorities busted a big smuggling operation.
Ring, that's right. Well, they're called baby eels. They're called glass eels, which are tiny, tiny baby eels, and trafficking of that fish is more lucrative than cocaine. French officials say they have broken up a smuggling ring that shipped around 46 tons of glass eels to Asia, worth more than 18 million euros. It's a fruit of 4 years of investigation, which started in 2017 after customs officers seized around 1,000 kilos of the fish destined for China and Thailand. Over the past 3 decades, the European eel population has plunged 75%. The European police agency Europol says glass eel trafficking is one of the most devastating crimes against wildlife worldwide and has been carrying out multinational operations to stamp out smugglers. Up next, leaders of the Group of 7 nations have begun their summit meetings in Cornwall, where they're expected to agree to provide 1 billion doses of COVID vaccines to the countries that need them most by 2023. The other idea for speeding up vaccine production is more controversial, one about suspending intellectual property rights on the jabs. Yenna Lee takes a closer look at the pharmaceutical patents and what's at stake.
The World Trade Organization has rules on intellectual property designed to incentivize companies and creators to innovate and produce. Patents are a type of IP rights. They provide companies with limited-term monopoly over their inventions to reward them for investing in the research that allowed them to develop their product. Vaccines fall into this category. When a pharmaceutical company makes a scientific breakthrough, they expect to have market control for around 20 years. But as COVID-19 spread across the world, many governments and activists argued that these rules should be put on hold due to the severity of the global pandemic. A proposal spearheaded by India and South Africa was submitted to the WTO along these lines. Their supporters say this will bridge the vaccine gap between rich and poor countries.
We need billions and billions of vaccines, and these handful of pharmaceutical companies who own the vaccines and the patents cannot produce enough for everyone.
Unsurprisingly, pharmaceutical companies disagree, but they're not the only ones. Critics argue that there's no point in sharing secret recipes to countries that lack ingredients and the know-how to make vaccines. They prefer to promote donations and exports. G7 leaders have yet to agree on the issue. The White House was first against and is now for a patent suspension. Germany is against, but France's Emmanuel Macron is leaning towards a limited easing of rules. In any case, a WTO waiver would need a consensus among its 164 members.
That was Yenna Lee reporting there. Let's take a quick look at the day's trading action now. And European stocks finished the week at record high levels despite signs of rising inflation. Travel and leisure stocks bounced back from a drop during the previous session. Wall Street shares, the trading there is slightly more muted this Friday and a mixed picture there. As you can see, the Dow Jones down in negative territory, the S&P and the Nasdaq both up just above the flat line. Some more of the day's business stories for you now, and McDonald's has become the latest major company to be hit by a cyber attack. The hamburger chain says it detected unauthorized activity on its internal network and discovered that a small number of files containing personal data were accessed in South Korea and Taiwan. No payment information, however, was breached, and that its security system was able to close off access quickly after identifying the issue, according to the company's statement. BlackRock, the world's largest asset manager, has obtained a license to operate in China. It's the first global money manager to start a wholly owned mutual fund business in the country. Beijing agreed to remove foreign ownership caps in its $3.5 trillion mutual fund industry last year as part of its trade deal with the United States. The market is expected to triple in size in the next decade. And South Africa's government has agreed to sell its majority stake in South African Airways to a private consortium. The national flag carrier has been under a form of bankruptcy protection since late 2019, but the COVID-19 pandemic has exacerbated its financial situation. The buyer will initially inject more than 210 million euros into the struggling carrier. The airline is among several state-owned firms that depend on government bailouts, putting pressure on the national budget amid rising debt. Cuba is suspending cash bank deposits in US dollars, blaming US sanctions for the decision. Cuban account holders will have until June the 21st to deposit dollars before the measure takes effect. The authorities say that transfers in US dollars as well as deposits in other currencies will continue to be accepted. Some speculate it's a covert attempt to control the black market price of the dollar that has risen to more than double the official exchange rate, though the government blames tighter sanctions introduced during the Trump era that are restricting its ability to use the currency abroad. Let's take a listen.
Es una medida ineludible, indispensable, que tiene que tomar nuestro sistema bancario y financiero. No tiene una manera de evitar tomarla. Y es una medida además motivada por el bloqueo económico de los Estados Unidos.
Yuka Royer with our Friday Business Report. Thank you so much.